Hi and welcome to your second sleep story. I hope you had a good day today, but even if you didn't, it's okay. Remember, there's always tomorrow. Now it's time to prepare yourself for a good night's sleep. Letting go of regrets, worries and thoughts. Just relaxing and allowing your mind and body to rest and recharge. So as you listen to the story, don't try to fall asleep. Just enjoy the story. And as you do so, your mind and body will relax. And sleep will happen naturally. You may have noticed that the sights and sounds of nature is calming and soothing. Have you ever looked up at the stars on a clear night and felt your worries leave you in that vast openness? Well, I hope the story helps you connect with those feelings so you can have a restful night. Make sure your room is dark and quiet, and lying down comfortably, take a few slow, deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And then, allowing your breathing to return to its natural rhythms, let us begin today's bedtime story. Shiva lived with his parents and older brother at the edge of the world. Or that's what it felt like. Actually, they lived in a small red brick house, perched on the edge of a hill, overlooking the vast blue waters of the Arabian Sea. The house was located along one of Goa's quieter beaches, and Shiva absolutely loved everything about it. Its wide windows, sloping roof, the lush, overgrown garden with trees that were perfect for climbing, and his gang of neighborhood friends. But there was one thing Shiva longed to do, and that was to join his brother, Amar, on one of his famous overnight adventures. Amar was 17 years old and loved being outdoors almost more than Shiva did. Once a month, on a particularly clear night, Amar would pack up his tent, fill his backpack with a bottle of water, some snacks, and their grandfather's ancient telescope, and he'd set off into the wilderness for what he called his solitude camp. Shiva had always been too young to join Amar on these excursions, and would watch longingly as his tall and athletic older brother left. But this year was different. Shiva had turned 12, an age he had been counting down to because it was the age that his parents had promised to allow him to accompany his brother. Both brothers were excited. Shiva was thrilled about spending an entire night under the open sky, and Amar was looking forward to showing his brother the wonders of the natural world. They had spent all morning making sure they didn't forget to pack anything. Just before sunset, as the sky was turning crimson with streaks of pink and orange, the two boys left home. They walked down the leafy street that was so familiar to them, and yet, in the shadows of twilight, looked brand new. There was hardly any traffic in this part of the city, so apart from an occasional lone cyclist, they saw nobody. Shiva's mind was bursting with excitement. What would it be like to be outdoors all night? What if he couldn't sleep? What if they encountered some sort of dangerous creature? He knew the latter was unlikely, but couldn't stop himself from asking Amar. His older brother grinned. "Just wait and see," he said. They wound down the path towards a little clearing in the foliage that was one of Amar's favorite spots. It was close enough to the beach to hear the gentle sounds of the waves and to smell the salty breeze, but it was tucked in between a grove of trees, giving them the feeling of being deep inside a jungle. The two brothers set up their tent in silence as the sky turned darker and stars began to come out. Shiva looked around. Tall trees all around them, palm fronds dotted in between mango and neem. But above them, forming an almost perfect circle, was a clearing free of branches and a beautiful view of the sky above. They couldn't see the ocean from the campsite, but they were aware of its presence. The rhythm of the waves was hypnotic, growing louder and receding, louder and receding, never slowing down, never stopping. The air was cool but slightly sticky, with a hint of salt on the breeze. The boys spread out their sleeping bags just outside the tent and lay down on their backs. With every delicate breeze, a rustle shifted through the leaves above them, making soft noises that fell into a chorus with the sounds of the ocean. Shiva looked up at the sky. The gentle breeze tickled his skin. He took a slow, deep breath in through his nose, feeling the fresh ocean air fill his body, and exhaled completely through his mouth, allowing his body to relax. He closed his eyes for a moment, growing aware of every part of his body loosening, relaxing. He felt the weight of his head, his arms, his legs, on the soft sleeping bag beneath him. He felt free, light, and fresh. In a while, when he opened his eyes, he saw that Amar had lit a small lantern beside them. The yellow glow, tinged with orange, exuded warmth. A golden ring formed around the lantern, creating a soft flicker of shadows around them. A few tiny insects were drawn to the light, the flapping of their wings barely audible as they fluttered near the lamp. Amar sat down again next to Shiva, who turned to his brother and asked, "How many stars do you think there are in the sky?" Amar leaned back on his arms and stared up at the sky above him. It was dark, like black velvet, with a million pinpricks of light. The moon was a crescent, hanging low in the clear night. Some people say that some of the stars we see in the night sky are actually tens of thousands of years old. Did you know that, Shiva? Amar asked. Shiva looked at his brother in wonder, his eyes wide. Amar continued, "That's because they are thousands of light years away, which means that this light you're seeing has left the star thousands of years ago, maybe hundreds of thousands of years." Shiva couldn't believe it. He looked up in amazement. The night sky had always been fascinating to him, But now it seemed to him to be a form of time travel. Was he really looking out at light that had traveled thousands of years to reach his eyes? If he focused only on the stars, it was like he was swimming amongst them. He looked up at the velvety night sky. Some of the stars shone like dazzling, sharp beams of light, while others twinkled like gems, sparkling against the darkness. They shared a plate of sandwiches and a bottle of fruit juice, and then the two boys took out their grandfather's old travel telescope. Amar gazed up through the lens, looking for the constellations he recognized, pointing out the Big Dipper, Orion the Hunter, and the Little Bear to Shiva. As Shiva peered through the telescope, he began seeing patterns of his own among the stars. "That group of stars there looks a bit like a snail," he told Amar, pointing up. "And that looks like a spoon." Shiva grinned. He felt as if he could gaze up at the sky endlessly. Amar shook his head in amusement at his brother's wild imagination. The night was turning chilly. The boys decided to get into their sleeping bags and lay down on their backs, still mesmerized by the stars. The waves continued their constant, reassuring rhythm, lapping against the shore before drawing back and reaching out again. The ground beneath them was soft and giving, and their bodies sank down comfortingly. They were both quiet as they looked up in awe. "Shiva, never forget, we are all made of stars," Amar whispered to his little brother, whose eyes were beginning to droop. As the lamp flickered and their little camp grew dark, Amar said, still whispering, "At the very beginning of time, when the universe was being formed, there was only hydrogen and helium in the atmosphere. Stars are like reactors that turn these elements into carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur. And when they exploded in supernovas, some of those elements came together on Earth to create life. Even today, stars and galaxies are imploding, and from stardust, everything else comes to life." Shiva was half asleep, but he had a smile on his face as he mumbled something. Even as he closed his eyes, he imagined the many galaxies of stars glowing until their burning end, and he fell into deep, sweet dreams about the magic of the universe.